Hello, my name is Maria Knelson, and this is my husband Arnold Knelson. We are the biological parents of Joey Knelson, the 14-year-old boy that ran away from his foster home, and now is posting YouTube videos on YouTube. A lot of Joey's viewers have been asking why the Children's Society took Joey and his siblings away from his biological parents. Well, I am here to tell you the whole story. For many years, the CAS have been bothering my family due to jealous family members and terrible neighbors. The CAS kept on opening and closing our case, yet constantly they showed up at our door to realize there was nothing wrong, so they closed the file again. So they opened our case again. My husband Arnold and I were fed up, and we told them that we didn't want them on our property anymore. We didn't say this because we had something to hide, but only because we thought about our children and how it would affect them. The CAS constantly disrupted our children at school for no reason at all. The CAS would have our children's school secretary disrupt our kids from class at their Christian school. We were paying thousands of dollars a year for their education at a private school, and several times a week my children were disrupted over and over again. How could they possibly concentrate with the schooling if they were being constantly interrupted? Then they decided to come to my children's school during school hours and try to speak to them. Now my children have been separated from one another and put into different public schools against me and my husband's wishes. In the past 2.5 years, my husband and I have spent thousands of dollars in lawyer bills, constantly wasting time in court, only to be told that we will never see our children again. While this was happening, we had been in contact with our son Joey and Arnold Jr. Each time they called, they begged us to pick them up. All they wanted was to come home. We couldn't do anything because we would go to jail for trying to take care of our children. Joey must have become fed up with this and took matters into his own hands. Back in September 14, 2012, just like any normal day, the sun was shining bright, and all that changed when the cops broke down our door. I was at the Toronto market selling vegetables. I had arranged that Arnold's brother Isaac would take the kids to school that day, except for my daughter Mary, who wasn't feeling well. I came home around 11:30 that day from the market. When I came inside, Mary was in the kitchen playing with the smaller children. Our two sons, John and Nick, and our family friend Eva were outside working in the field, and my husband was sleeping. Then my daughter Trudy had just gotten up, and my husband Arnold went outside to help the kids. I went and had a shower. After that, I made lunch for the kids. Then me and my 5-month-old son went to bed, and Mary had put Mina, Tina, and Luca down for a nap, and the other kids were at school. So my husband, my 2 boys, my daughter, and Eva went outside to finish the load, which was for our Saturday market. Everything was quiet that afternoon. Then bam, it turned into a nightmare that we couldn't wake up from. Mary came into my bedroom screaming and crying. There are cops and CAS ladies here. I remember jumping out of my bed, running to my washroom to grab something to wear, since I wasn't dressed at the time. Our daughter Mary had put the rest of the kids in my room and closed the door. At that time, I looked at the clock and noticed it was 3:30. The kids were finished school. This all happened so fast. I didn't even have time to think. Then boom, I heard a loud bang, and the cops had broken down our bedroom door. I told them I wanted to put some clothes on, but they didn't seem to care that I was hardly wearing anything. They came in so fast, the kids started screaming and crying because they didn't know what was happening. Like I said, this happened so fast. I wasn't quite up yet. I had been up all night, not knowing what exactly I should do. I stood in front of my children, blocking them from the children's aid and the police officers.
And then Ann Suderman was in charge of all of this.
There were 3 cops in my bedroom and 3 CAS workers, and others were standing in the doorway. They blocked us in so we couldn't go anywhere. There was so much commotion going on in the house and outside. I remember hearing the police officers speaking back and forth to each other on their phones, yet I had no idea what was going on outside. I was in shock and I was crying. I told them to please stop all of this, and asked them why they were doing this, but not one of them answered me. They started dragging my children out of my bed and out of the room. My daughter Mary put up a fight. Our kids were screaming, "Mommy, help me," but not one would listen. They just grabbed the children one by one out of the house. Once they had taken my younger children, Mary ran after them asking why they were doing this, trying to stop them, and a police officer grabbed her wrist and she pushed him away and ran out the back door. It took them a while to catch Mary. It took 3 cops to take her, and after that I felt helpless. Our kids were all crying and screaming for help, but we couldn't do anything. I saw 2 cops on my husband's back, and my husband was trying to get them off. Our 2 sons were also fighting with cops, trying to defend their siblings. This day was like a horrible nightmare, but it started off as a normal day and then turned into a disaster. I and my husband and my 2 sons were charged like criminals and were thrown into cop cars. On May of 2014, May 24th, I gave birth to our 17th child, a baby girl, which we have not named. When I was in labor, the whole hospital was on lockdown. And then when I gave birth to our daughter, the CAS workers were waiting outside the door so they could take her. I left the hospital that day more traumatized than I already was. We are urging all people, parents, and children to stand up, fight the Children's Aid Society, and take a stand. Do it for the children. Do it for the future.